This is a story of how to destroy the world, and it's a true life story. It features China, Russia, the United States, and a massive war in space. Every new week comes with some major announcement about space. If it isn't the test of a new rocket, it's the launch of an innovative satellite. If it isn't a satellite launch, it's a robotic exploration mission on the moon. Whatever it is, space-related activities are growing rapidly. By 2035, space is expected to be a $1.8 trillion economy, far greater than the GDPs of 184 of 195 countries on the planet, and a massive rises from the $630 billion of 2023. The rapid growth of the global space economy reflects how crucial space has become in daily life. Weather forecasts, GPS, communications, and so much more are directly linked to the billions of dollars worth of satellites in space. Disabling these satellites could easily mean disabling core sectors of an entire country without shooting a single bullet or missile on Earth. It is now possible to confuse, misguide, and essentially neutralize the coordination of the militaries of the most powerful nations in the world. This is a goldmine of an opportunity for powerful rivals. It is, however, also a great vulnerability, since virtually all of these powerful rivals have satellites in space, coordinating activities on Earth. So as much as they would like to develop capabilities that can destroy enemy satellites in space, they must also develop capabilities that protect their own satellites in space, whether for defense or attack. All of these point to one thing: weapons in space. And with weapons, inevitably comes war. This is all beyond theory too. The head of the United States Space Command, General Stephen N. Whiting, has already called for the US to develop, quote, space fires. This is a clear reference to some kind of weapon system. General Stephen Whiting stated that the US must develop these weapons to ensure space superiority over adversaries, deter others from attacking American space assets, and use them operationally in the event of war. In 2024, the U.S. Space Force had a budget of $29 billion. Add that to the $27.2 billion for NASA, and we get a total of $56.2 billion for only 2 American agencies in only 1 year. That's more than the entire European Union spent on space in 2024. Generals in China and Russia probably have the same opinion as General Stephen Whiting. So eventually, sometime soon, someone, somewhere, will get their space fires. The race is on. There are several ways that satellites can attack one another. These satellites live in predictable orbits high above the Earth, with no real stealth cover. They're easily visible to radar and electro-optical sensors, and the extreme speeds at which objects travel in orbit, about 12,000 miles an hour, mean that even tiny projectiles can do a staggering amount of damage to them. You could throw a stone in space, and it'll accelerate to the speed of a sniper bullet and destroy a satellite. The resulting debris could destroy 5 more satellites for free. So yes, not much has to be done at the moment to destroy a satellite in space today. One option is to use a projectile weapon, like a space-going shotgun, to blast another satellite with a cloud of metallic pellets. This comes with the downside of requiring the shooter to get well within range of the target, though, so the target could notice the shooter's not-so-subtle presence well before the shooter can take a shot and deploy defenses or counter-offensives. Another option is hand-to-hand combat, real steel boxing in real life, but far less dramatic, for now at least. With an average cost in the hundreds of millions, satellites are far from disposable. Satellites develop faults, and they must be fixed. One way to fix them is another satellite, with robotic arms to function as the arm of an engineer in space, officially. Unofficially, it could represent the arms of a rival boxer to the satellites operated by rival nations and do some serious damage. Of course, this comes with the likely fatal disadvantage of requiring the boxing satellite to get awfully close to its target to deliver a hit. Before it can get close enough, it would likely have met its demise. Then there is the third option, the most powerful and the most likely to dominate a future war in space: the laser weapon. The laser weapon is a weapon that could have stayed in science fiction forever, given how revolutionary it is. Militaries around the world have spent decades and hundreds of millions of dollars extracting this weapon from the TV screen and making it a reality. And it's working. The benefits of the laser weapon are simply out of this world, which make them exactly what space needs. The benefits include pinpoint accuracy, an infinite magazine, silent invisible shots, speed of light attack, and enough range to strike planets, So what's a satellite? Against a weapon like this, aside scorching satellites to cause physical damage, the laser weapon could also dazzle a satellite, that is, make it blind, by rendering its communications antennas or electro-optical cameras inoperative. With all of these capabilities in mind, the most powerful nations in the world are gnashing their teeth, funding their budgets, and pampering their engineers to build the most advanced space-based weapons ever, especially China and the United States. A 2022 U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency report recently concluded that China is already in possession of ground-based laser systems with wildly varying degrees of power, some able to strike targets over 60 miles away in space. Up to 4 different sites where these weapons reside have now been located. In addition to these weapons, researchers in China have reportedly developed the relativistic klystron amplifier, or RKA for short, an interestingly named directed energy weapon that could jam or destroy satellites in space using a 5-megawatt wave burst. Unlike the land-based weapons in the Korla East test site, this new weapon can be mounted on satellites to get it close enough to its targets to burn out sensitive electronics. Going by the sheer number of hurdles that must have been overcome, the RKA is crucial proof of how far China has come in terms of directed energy weapons. The weapon must require a high power output to be even remotely useful against the massive satellites in space. The weapon must also feature advanced beam control and adaptive optics technologies to counter atmospheric disturbances and maintain optimal beam quality over long distances. Then, it must incorporate sophisticated tracking and targeting capabilities to ensure accurate and precise engagement of intended targets. But while the RKA, once scaled up, could fire beams intense enough to rip through satellites traveling at speed, China currently denies it as a directed energy weapon. Whatever the truth is for now remains anybody's guess, but America's counter isn't guesswork at all. Sharp as a knife, focused as a laser, the US responds with space-based weapons of her own. Weapons such as, first, kinetic kill vehicles. Kinetic kill vehicles can be seen as the space version of kamikaze drones seen here on Earth. Hunter-killer satellites could load such kinetic vehicles in a bay and launch them when a target is in sight. Or the satellites themselves could be kinetic kill vehicles that ram into targets if the US military figures out a way to achieve that at economical costs. Bush-era defense budgets included funding for a space-based kinetic kill vehicle under the Near Field Infrared Experiment Program, or NFIRE program for short. NFIRE, developed by Orbital ATK, now Northrop Grumman Innovation Systems, was ended in 2015 according to reports, but there's no reason it couldn't have been transferred into a top-secret program. Time will tell. Second, Earth-based lasers. In 2002, the Bush administration announced the start of 2 offensive space capabilities, CCS, and the Counter-Surveillance Reconnaissance System. Although the project would be abruptly canceled in 2004, it was a predecessor to a slew of offensive capabilities aimed at space for the US military. Today, the US has an entire fleet of Earth-based laser weapons that can either strike assets in space or be upgraded to do so, with weapons such as Helios, Deem-Shorid, SHIELD, now a reality. It's clear that the U.S. Air Force, Army, and Navy, along with industry partners, got to work and never stopped once. Third, space-based jammers. Another possible weapon to join the U.S. military's arsenal is a space-based jammer installed on satellites. They could be carried by certain highly valuable American satellites themselves or on more maneuverable bodyguard satellites. The Air Force Research Laboratory in 2003 conducted one of its first tests of a maneuvering satellite. The XSS-10, XXS-11 was launched in 2005, and in 2014, the Air Force tested a similar satellite called the Automated Navigation and Guidance Experiment for local space. The list goes on and on. Today, there is an entire constellation of these satellites in geostationary orbit, the most valuable and most difficult to access real estate in space. This constellation is known as the Geosynchronous Space Situational Awareness Program and is aimed at protecting American and allied assets in space, including most of the world's communications satellites, civilian or military. The previously classified constellation of satellites has conducted hundreds of maneuvers in fulfilling their duty, but they lack real destructive offensive capacities for now. Technically, there's nothing stopping these satellites from wielding railguns, laser blasters, or radio frequency jammers. Then their presence would be more threatening to hostile foreign forces. It's no question that another challenge for the US Space Force to defeat is hypersonic missiles. China has the most advanced hypersonic missiles in the world, far ahead of the US. The Asian country is building a hypersonic missile arsenal from multiple programs across its multiple military services. The most notable of these missiles are the DF-17, the Xingkong-2, and the YJ-21. The YJ-21, which is believed to have a range of 930 miles and a top speed of Mach 1.5 speed between Mach 6 and Mach 10, has already entered its testing phase. In footage from 2022, the YJ-21 could be seen cold, launched from the vertical launch system of a $900 million Type 055 Renhai class guided missile cruiser. It would also likely be launchable from China's new, recently launched Type 003 Fujian aircraft carrier, the largest conventionally powered aircraft carrier in the world. The YJ-21 has rather small control surfaces, suggesting it'll likely not double as an anti-air missile but be used primarily to neutralize opposition ships. At its current pace of development, the YJ-21 could be the world's first ship-based hypersonic anti-ship missile. The Xingkong-2 has been making some strides. As a wave rider, the Xingkong-2 rides its own shockwaves for greater lift, less drag, greater range, and overall improved performance. The missile boasts a maximum range of 6,200 miles, a flight ceiling of 98,000 feet, and a top speed exceeding Mach 6. Then there is the Dongfeng-17 missile, also known as DF-17. This is the most mature hypersonic missile of them all. The 36-foot-long, 33,000 pounds hypersonic missile has been tested 7 times and boasts a 100% success rate. A maximum range of 1,600 miles, a flight ceiling of 197,000 feet, and unbelievable levels of maneuverability are only some of what makes the DF-17 the face of China's unrivaled hypersonic missile prowess. As the tension between China and the US continues to grow, Chinese dominance in hypersonic missile technology is a threat the US cannot help but respond with complex investments, and not to the Space Force alone. The US is investing heavily in countering the threat of China. Proof of this is in no short supply. From warning statements to stronger allied relations to the record-breaking fiscal year 2025 defense budget that references China multiple times, a record $145 billion is to be spent on research, development, testing, and evaluation alone. That's more than the entire annual defense budget of every other nation on the planet except China. Then, there is a $170 billion slated for procurement of technologies alone, another record for the history books. To make the most of these huge numbers, the US would focus on building and fortifying its resilient joint force and defense ecosystem by making critical investments across the following core domains. First, air. $61 billion is being set aside for air power, which consists of continued development, procurement, and modernization within the U.S. Air Force. This means continuous work on fighters such as the F-22, F-35, and F-15EX, bombers such as the B-21 Raider, mobility support aircraft such as the KC-46A tanker, specialized support aircraft, and unmanned aerial vehicles. Second, sea. $48 billion is being set aside for sea power development, including the construction of 9 new battleships, the construction of nuclear-powered Columbia ballistic missile submarines, which would be the largest, most capable, and most advanced submarines ever produced, and then the construction of the Ford-class aircraft carriers, which are the largest, heaviest, most dominating aircraft carriers in history. Third, land. For land power improvements, the budget includes $13.9 billion for the modernization of Army and Marine Corps combat equipment, including their armored multi-purpose vehicle, amphibious combat vehicle, and optionally manned fighting vehicle. Fourth, nuclear capabilities. A heavy $37.7 billion is also going into the modernization of America's nuclear capabilities, particularly regarding their command, control, and communication systems and the multi-domain vehicles that would wield them. Vehicles such as the B-21 bomber of the skies, the Columbia ballistic missile submarines of the seas, and the LGM-35 Sentinel intercontinental ballistic missile launch from land. In terms of nuclear capabilities, US is far ahead of China and the US plans to keep it that way. Many more billions are being poured into various other less explosive force-multiplying features, including highly lethal precision weapons such as hypersonic missiles and laser-directed energy weapons, which the US currently outpaces China in, as space takes shape in becoming the fourth theater of conflict after land, water, and air. The usual suspects have gone to work, committing billions of dollars to ensure they're at the top of the food chain in the theater. The race is getting more intense by the second and could itself be the trigger that ignites war in space. It could destroy the world as we know it. To prevent this, subscribe to this channel and give this video a like. Thanks for watching.